Hello everyone and welcome back to one of my favorite maps in the map pool and another game of Beyond All Reason. Today we're taking a look at Sector 318C. It's an alien world inhabited by strange alien flora and fauna. And today, spawning on the southeastern side, representing the blue team is the Cortex Commander, the humble Jamachus himself, going to be showing us what he's got in the bank for us today as he spawns on the southern side, the hard side, quote unquote, the difficult side, quote unquote. Already though, some interesting plays are going on over here. We have an air start over here from Dr. No. Okay, cheeky as all hell on the blue side of the map. All the way across the map, spawning in the exact opposite side, the red commander. Spawning as a Cortex Commander here in bright fire truck red, goes by the name of Celine. Going to be going up on this northern high ground over here. Pretty interesting decisions being made all around here. Definitely a little more stock standard here for the red team. Yeah, we're going for bots here. Okay, looking basically standard right now for the red team. Essentially what we'd expect normally. We have an air player up here. In this case, it's going to be Sir Bonk-a-Lot. Love that name. We have Scuffed as well over in the backline here. Also going to be going for air. That's a little bit non-standard. Maybe we're going to see a bit of a reversal of roles right here. Interesting either way. This is interesting though. Oh, we are going for a transport. Okay, I wondered about this. So this is a build that I just saw in the 1v1 tournament, which just wrapped up recently. And the build essentially revolves around getting an air transport out and then picking up your commander, sending it across the map, trying to degun labs and stuff. Obviously a 1v1 build, not going to be entirely applicable to the 8v8 scene. But what I did learn is that basically it all adds up so that as soon as you build a single solar panel, a single metal extractor, and then you start up the, you build the metal extractor, you build the solar panel, and then you build the laboratory, and then as soon as you do that, you build the transport. Actually, I might have that wrong. Anyway, I'll have to go refresh the build, right? Anyways, as soon as you get it all up and running, essentially you can reclaim the lab just in time for the transport to come out, and it means that you can have all your metal and also degun your enemies' labs too. It's a pretty interesting build. Definitely go check it out, the 1v1 tournament, in case you're curious. That just wrapped up today as of recording this, the Saturday afternoon upon which that tournament was played. Pretty awesome one. Dr. No. Oh, interesting. Okay, we are moving up north here. So what was the point of spawning down here then? I don't understand what the point of spawning back here was. If we're just going to move the commander up to this northern section, I don't see why we'd spawn down here. I figured what we were going to do is transport the commander up to this frontal area right here and use the extra commander to sort of equalize against the three commanders for the red team down on the southern side. Didn't really end up being necessary because of the fact that, well, we ended up with an air player right here in the back line, not a tech player. Not to say that Scuff couldn't transition into tech here eventually, but it's definitely a bit of a strange build order coming out right now all over the place. Very, very bizarre. Cage Caught pushing forward right now, getting those LLTs set up, setting up some metal extractors as well. Just a single grunt holding the line right here, nothing serious for Jamachus. I'm expecting to see this commander go for a whole bunch of eco in the backline here. Definitely getting a phenomenal energy up and running, and then eventually stepping into a right and proper T2 once we have enough forces out on the field here. What a play. Dr. No now going for energy converters over here. I am so baffled by what the powder blue commander is up to. He hands over the 3.0 metal extractor right here, which neither commander has taken. Absolutely a flaw. This should have been taken immediately. Definitely quite a bit strange. Jayden using those incisors against the blitzes over here. Incisors received that little nerf, they received a little buff. The Blitz received a sort of indirect nerf, at least in the matchup, by the Incisors receiving a little bit of a buff. Makes them able to shoot past each other, makes them a little bit better in big clumped up balls, essentially bringing them up to par with the Blitz. Makes them a little bit more devastating on the battlefield. Dr. No continuing to push forward. I don't mind it as long as we're going to be aggressive over here. I feel like if we're going to transport our commander over here, we might as well do something with it, right? Like, we might as well transport our commander really far forward and be pretty aggressive. Which I'm definitely not opposed to, but I think if we're gonna do that, we can't half-ass both things. We need to fully commit to one thing or the other. Dr. No, there he goes. Gets a pick on one of the grunts here. We're gonna get two. We will. Okay, not the end of the world. Metal extractor's coming up too. We need to get some LLTs up before Celine's commander walks up here. Celine gonna be more than happy to just expand on the back of this and continue pumping out units because the metal advantage is gonna be tremendous in favor of the red player right now. Because essentially they're going up against someone on 3 metal extractors. We don't even have the 3.0 metal extractor here. Versus somebody on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 metal extractors. Definitely going to be pretty risky over there on the northern front. LLT battle on the southern side here. Cage and Jamakis going toe-to-toe right now, just building more and more LLTs all over the place. It's about time we see some artillery coming up. Yeah, we do have shell shockers queued up right now. Lovely stuff. Keeley building her LLT forest as well, although we're only one deep so far. It'll survive. Not comfortable, but it'll survive. You know, those medium tanks laying down the law. There it goes. Evaporates into thin air. Did not survive. Perhaps just to spite me. Purple Commander Emma Tarkus. I think I've already pointed out that this name always reminds me of Tars Tarkus from John Carter. Love that movie. Oh, nice D-gun block right there. Oh, it's so close. Okay, we finally get the D-gun on the lab right there. Dr. No doing the absolute most to block those D-guns right there. I think it was 4 or 5 successful D-guns that were blocked. Oh no, the Blitz has jumped with the commander though, and it's gonna go down. There's plenty of green reinforcements right here, and that red commander is only at 19% HP, so it's not gonna take much to topple that commander. But I'm sure Celine is itching and craving that metal that's now lying on the floor right there. Those lashers, very difficult to push into, of course. Those missile trucks, very capable of dealing with these LLTs and, of course, dealing some damage to the commander here. We'll see him melt away part of that commander's HP as they fire away. Well, maybe not if they're not going to get aggressive anyways. We do have fighters out for the yellow commander. I do see moving around on the minimap. Jamak is pushing Cage back right here. We do have the aggravators. Easier to get up in significant numbers than the shell shockers are, so I'm not surprised to see that Jamakis was quicker to the draw with those. We do have an anti-air bot out here as well, in case Cage, or anybody else on this team for that matter, goes for any of those pesky shuriken. Ooh, Cage in a little bit of trouble here. Yeah, dodging and weaving. Ducking and diving. Cage Koat trying to keep the commander out of harm's way here. Those rockets. 4% per rocket, so only 2 more need to hit this commander. Oh, it's so tricky. It's a dangerous, dangerous dance. Oh, Grunt's coming in for the assist. And down he goes. Does manage to take out a whole bunch of these aggravators over here, so that is quite nice. But that is a huge, huge blow right now to the orange commander, who no longer has any tremendous forces on the field. Well, you know, I say that. Blitzes are coming out from the backline here to try and reinforce this. Is there enough to stop this commander from eating all this? I think our shell shockers need to be put on hold fire and just fired all at once to try and do as much concussive damage to that commander right there as possible. But this is a tremendous start right here for Jamakis. Eating up all that metal is going to be a huge, huge play right now for the blue commander, who is suffering terribly from the 4 wind speed right now, desperately trying to get some advanced solar panels up, but not having any way to actually do so. Not eating the wreckage right here either. I'm not sure exactly why. Worried more so about keeping the units alive on the front. I suppose that's fair. No units on the front means no metal to harvest. Or rather, no sustain to harvest the metal, right? Definitely need to start working on eating up this wreckage, though. There we go. We get back to reclamation. Oh, I see what's happening here. The shell shockers are focusing down the corpse, trying to obliterate it before the reclaim can go through. Unfortunately, they don't quite have the damage to do that, so Jamakis will benefit tremendously from all that metal going into his bank. Meanwhile, Kaylee and Jaitan are pushing against each other here. We do have a Janus tank out. Ooh, and those brutes are clumped. Beautiful Janus connection right there. Hits the front of that clump of medium tanks, just about as effective as you want a Janus to be. Lovely, lovely stuff. Medium tanks continuing to harass the front line right here from the Super Swan. And Sizers and medium tanks, pretty beautiful match made in heaven. They complement each other nicely because those stouts can fire away from long range. They do a decent amount of damage, whereas the incisors can clean up just about any of the chaff that otherwise applies any pressure here. Xenodragon is taking control of this northern sector, but at a steep cost, losing control over this lowland area. We do have some medium tanks coming out. I hear shurikens as well. A little bit of a grunt run by over here paralyzes the economy of Caged Koat. Speaking of paralysis, where are those shurikens off at? I don't quite see them. Either way, medium tanks jumping on top of Xenodragon's commander. Oh no, that commander's feeling the burn. Does get a killer D-gun on 2 of those medium tanks right there. Stalling for energy though, so having a really hard time getting the 3rd one, but eventually will manage to clean all of that up. Some pop-up turrets being built here as well. Some dragons and all, always lovely to see. Very powerful stuff. Centurion set up on the front line. Okay, interesting. We do have a heavy laser tower as well. The Overwatch firing away at that Centurion army being sent out by the green commander, Onyx. Not the end of the world, but Onyx definitely losing a whole lot of these really expensive bots to a whole lot of inexpensive vehicles. Unfortunately, that's just the way that the vehicles trade out a lot of the times here, and I think, yeah, it looks like Kirill has realized, Kirill? We'll go with Kirill. Looks like Kirill has realized that the forces outnumber vastly the forces here on the front line. Oh, the Janus was a huge connection. Shut down basically every single one of those blitzes right there, but still, medium tanks ravaging this front line right here. Okay, another big Janus connection, takes down another medium tank. I think maybe if that Janus had fired one more time, it would be called it, or considered at the very least efficient. Not going to be able to say so here, though, for Ematarchus, who is losing so many forces to just a minor commitment here. That being said, a lot of forces were spared up to this northern area to try and keep all this safe. Dr. No has now just built a base over here, so we kind of just took this area and then refused to elaborate. I can't help but wonder if it was a mistake, right? I wonder if maybe we just misplaced on the map and then it was just a little bit of a, yeah, just an oopsie-doopsie, so to speak. Cage has been pushed off the front here, but has not been harassed back to the base. Shell shockers, blitzes, all sorts of stuff. Trying to hold on desperately right now. Clinging to dear life. Jeton keeping all this nice and healthy. Repairing with the commander, always good. A little bit of a flank though here. Oh yeah, that's actually really nice. Bunch of thugs catch the riot tanks here. That's beautiful. Pretty much the only unit, as far as bots go anyways, that can contest the riot tanks fairly effectively. Centurions are tough enough to do it, but they're so slow that the riot tanks get way too many opportunities to fire at them. The mace, decent enough, basically the same unit here. But the thug definitely really shines against those riot tanks. So very nicely done right there by the tank commander, realizing, hey, I can actually help my teammate out by cutting off the supply chain. The reinforcements will never come because we'll just be obliterating them one by one here. Of course, taking a fight one by one against your entire army. Very efficient. One of the strategies of all time. Jamachus' commander being healed now. Ooh, being obliterated is that res bot right there. Is a shell shocker. Barrages connect downwards on them. Eventually all this will be cleaned up. Well, kind of. The medium bots right here, the plasma bots. I guess they're not medium bots, are they? The light plasma bots. Continuing to march forward here. But there was a T2 transition. Jamachus pulls out the Fiends. And I think that's well done. Fiends make a whole lot of sense here, of course. Cortex T2 revolves around Fiend gameplay, at least the bot does. Fiends, one of the most powerful units that the Cortex commander has at their disposal. For multiple reasons, of course. Part of it is their speed, part of it is their damage. It kind of all comes together to be a very, very extremely useful sort of a unit. Jamachus pushes pretty far forward and then falls back here. Wouldn't mind seeing maybe a heavy laser tower or some Dragon's Maws, any of those pop-up flamethrower turrets, that sort of thing. Any of that on the front wouldn't be the end of the world here, but right now, I mean, we have the Fiends on the way, so really Jamachus just needs to stall for time, and I'm pretty sure that the blue commander here is having the time of their life, just you know, enjoying the fact that they've essentially got an uncontested lane here. Now, that being said, Jamachus has lost a whole bunch of these metal extractors here, so we're going to need to rebuild all those. There is a T2 constructor that's going to eventually just upgrade them all to T2 metal extractors, so it's the kind of problem that'll solve itself eventually, but for the time being, Jamachus is going to be in a little bit of an economic downtrodden state. I don't wonder if maybe Jamachus is going to, well, you kind of use the metal from the T2 metal extractors to fund the next T2 metal extractor, right? So maybe not going to be a tremendous issue, but maybe having those down will also be a little bit straining on the metal economy here for the blue commander. Super Swan with maces up against the thugs from Azure, the Tan commander here. Complicated battle, but it basically goes to whoever has more resbots. Whoever can pick up their army from the dead and put it back out on the field is going to have a fabulous time. Bombers coming in and connecting with a whole load of medium tanks. Shurikens also getting involved. We'll just stick with getting involved. 3.0 metal extractor. My goodness, we should claim those. We really, really desperately need to claim those. Those bombers putting in so much work. The tanks reduced in vast quantity by the bombers connecting in a huge bombing group right here. Nicely done by Scuffed. Yeah, coming in for the snipe on the commander even, maybe. Nope, looks like we were just continuing the carpet bombing over here. There we go. Yeah, we are going to target the commander. I think it makes a lot of sense. You have to be very careful about it. Obviously, commander's mobile, i.e. difficult to hit with bombers. Oh, did we get it? Oh, so close. 5% left on the Cyan commander right there. Very, very, very close call. Meanwhile, big run by has come through. Hot pink tanks have pushed up into the base right now for the dark purple player, Emma Tarkus. Yeah, Emma Tarkus. She loses all the solar panels and the vehicle bay. Well, eventually here anyways. Yeah, hot pink tank's gonna be more than happy to jump on top of those vehicle production structures here. Excellent movements. Don't even mind losing the medium tanks here because it opens up this entire lane. And this is not a lane that is just one-dimensional. This goes into multiple different people's backlines here. So it's really, really unfortunate to lose this player. Because as you can see, you can raid now through to the cyan green commander or the lime green commander's base. You can raid through to the seafoam commander's base. You can raid essentially into the backline here as well. Kind of in part, again, raiding the seafoam base. But either way, you can see how it becomes a very, very important thing to close up and keep under control. Fiends self-destructing here to do a whole bunch of extra damage. Don't mind it whatsoever. One of the things the Fiends are so especially good at is the fact that they can just be self-destructed and leave behind no corpse and still do a whole lot of damage while they do that. Anti-air coming up here. Jamakis' slow and steady tower creep is daunting, to say the very least. So we have the air player down on the low ground. We just have a regular vehicle player up on the high ground. Do we have anybody going for T2? I mean, there is a T2 vehicle bay already up and running for Cryocore. We've got T2 up and running for Selene. I would definitely say that the Sheldon can do some damage on the other side of the map. They have to get there first, though. And they're not there yet. It's going to take a while before those Sheldon get into a ball big enough to actually do any reasonable, meaningful damage. Gonna turn this into a Cerberus. I think that's a great idea. Cerberus up on this hillside could be absolutely brutal against Kyril, who now would be forced to make a decision about whether to stay in the middle of the map, push forward, or pull back. I think if you're gonna pull back, you might as well just eat up all those T1 units and use them to fund your T2 transition. Better than you losing the units and feeding them to your enemy, feeding their T2 transition. Kaylee's commander goes down right here as she is overwhelmed by the firepower from these Fiends coming out now. Suddenly, medium tank, all that stands between a fiery grave. Total obliteration. There we go. Self-destructs on the Fiends as well, just to make sure that no pretty corpses will be left behind. Very, very nicely done. A medium tank even pushes in here just to add insult to injury. Yaten can definitely eat up a whole bunch of this metal here. 1,000 or so metal tied up in the corpse right there. Gonna be quite useful. I imagine we are on T2 right now, so getting that T2 amount of metal up and running is going to be paramount to success here. Fiends jumping on top of all this. Really nice engagement from the Fiends, catching these players slacking. The tan and pink commander both at the same time slacking off right here, and indeed, beautiful engagement right there. See how efficient those Fiends can be? My goodness, those Fiends just tore through that entire composition. Couple thousand metal worth of T1 units right there, and the Fiends just obliterated it. Looks like the Sheldon are going to back off here. Makes sense. Those medium tanks are really difficult for them to deal with. They can technically deal with them, but you have to be kiting perfectly, and you have to make sure that you're absolutely on point with your micro. And it is inconvenient for the tanks because they have to chase down these Sheldon for so long that you're eventually forced to throw them into the enemy side of the map here. Of course, that does mean that once you throw them, they're going to be absorbed by your enemy, and it just makes it a very costly proposition. Never a very fun fight to fight. Mace is slowly but steadily pushing forward. Are we resurrecting or reclaiming? We're fight commanding. Okay, that's going to have these guys do a little bit of everything. They'll repair up all these units, as you can see right here. They'll also reclaim all the metal on the field. I certainly don't mind the reclaim order here. I think definitely when you're under contest, it's well worth it. Fiends, meanwhile, have burned through the base of the Maroon Commander here. Yeah, it looks like they took a little path down to this southern section where Yaten was not 100% covering. Yaten's still on T1, so how could he really stand up against the might of those T2 Fiends burning across the map here? And indeed, we have a grand total of 7 Fiends that make it to the backline right now, into the lab area of Scuffed here. They're gonna find a whole bunch of airplay, which is pretty weird. They're gonna find a T1 bot lab, they're gonna find the eventual T2 transition here. But more importantly than that, they're gonna find complete and utter devastation. Scuff's commander now being blasted apart here. Build power remains mostly intact, actually. Yeah, you know what? Remains mostly intact. We have 2 build turrets here. Definitely not the end of the world. You lose those build turrets and this becomes very, very difficult here, but this should not be all too difficult for Scuff to get back into. We just need another lab up. We just need some more constructors up, and I think we're going to be in a really nice spot here. There's more Wolverines trying to fire away over here as well. Grunt's sneaking around to the back line of this power, though. Ooh, that does hurt. It looks like the lime green commander also died up on the northern side. Sheldon continuing their march of madness, heading directly into the base right here of Dr. No. Unfortunate. Those Sheldon are just so brutal. Once they get up into numbers like this, very difficult to shut the Sheldon down. Nothing makes a Cortex player happier than having 10 Sheldons, a radar, and a radar jammer. Unlocks a world of infinite possibilities for that Cortex commander, and just about all of them lead towards the destruction of their opponent. Cerberus cannon finally comes up here. Just about an hour too late, this Cerberus cannon does come up. Looks like there's a Starlight even blasting away at it over here. The mobile pulsar weapon, firing away with its massive blue laser beam wherever and whenever it can. Right now, seemingly more interested in the constructors, though. Fair enough. The push on this other side is looking absolutely dangerous. I feel like I've said the word absolutely a lot this cast. I don't hate the incisors as a response to the Fiend. It's about as good as you're going to do with the T1 vehicle bay. Medium tank's obviously way too slow to hit those Fiends. Incisors definitely have a chance at the very least to do some damage to those T2 sprinters. T2 assault bots, I should say. The sprinter is an actual unit, so try to avoid using those words. Those special words. Oh, wow. Commander goes down to those self-destructed Fiends right there. Alright, not bad. Commander explosion will mark the end of the construction era right now for the yellow commander. Well, actually, I say that. There is an aircon up and running right here. If the aircon can rebuild, I'd be pretty impressed, though, because we already have a Persecutor built over here as well, shelling away at the base. It's just dumb firing on this, but it could essentially fire at everything over here. I think there was a lab there at one point, but now there's nothing but a charred crater filled with plasma fire. It looks like a commander goes down on this side. It was going to be Jamakis' commander. He loses it to a bunch of Sheldon over here. Not the end of the world, and the commander rather does fall off as you get into that T2 stage. Nothing too detrimental here. We already have an APHIS economy set up for Jamakis in the backline here, using all that metal from pushing into his enemies and turning it into a fabulous economy in the backline. Push up north, looking quite dangerous though. That's a lot of Mauser and a lot of Sheldon mixed in with a whole bunch of grunts. There's tons of gunships in the air, but we do have Manticore firing away wherever we can. Manticore and Trashers, both of which trying desperately to fire away with whatever they possibly can. We have a whole bunch of Mausers set up on the low ground here, as well as some Shell Shockers. Wouldn't mind seeing those actually get a little bit more active here. Feels like they could kill all this. I mean, there's no reason to let your opponent have 3 more metal extractors and a whole bunch of wind turbines up and running if they essentially have no defenses for it. Mauser's having a time of their life firing away at these hounds in retreat, blasting away at whatever they can that's just within their reach, and boy, is that T1 gonna feel the sting from those Mauser. Oh my goodness. Just obliterated. 2, 3, 4 shots from the Mauser, and that T1 evaporates into a thin gray mist. Lovely, lovely stuff right there. The Mauser, extremely powerful. Love to see that. One of those units that just constantly stays in the competitive meta. There's no place for it outside of the meta. It's too good. It's too good. I wouldn't even call it OP. It's just right, but it's just good. Heavy tanks now. Gonna fare much better against the incisors, that's for sure. The differentiation, by the way, between the Quaker and the Mauser is also one of those things that I absolutely love. So glad that we finally have a little bit more definition on those two. Essentially any of the units that I feel like Cortex and Armada share, I'm always in favor of sort of tweaking, changing, altering, just to make sure that they're a little bit more identifiable. Things like the radar jammers being cloaked and a little more expensive for Armada. Things like the Mauser and the Quaker there being slightly differentiated. Yeah, I think it all adds up quite nicely. Helps Cortex stand out on its own. Medium tanks in the backline right now with the Super Swarm. Build power under target. T2 lab is up and running, but we don't have enough of these T2 units. We did have we actually had a lot of T2 bots. Huh. Wonder where these went off to. Maybe they were sent to the front lines prematurely here. Didn't realize what trouble the base was actually in. Production is already stalled because the build power has failed. And I have a feeling that this Hound may be the last one that this lab ever produces here. If it produces it, oh, it's just barely. Hound has a broken leg already on exiting the factory, but either way, does manage to squeeze out, but those tanks taking down the lab, pretty brutal. Northern side has crumbled. As Sheldon Ball has continued to press and continued to press and continued to press, and here we are. Suddenly, Selena's knocking on Omic's door. Well, yeah, Omic's door. Or maybe doors, more accurately. He's got a couple of them. He's got 2 gauntlets that he was setting up. That one almost finished right there. What a shame to watch 1,250, a commander's worth of metal, go down the drain right there. Green Commander should be getting a notification about his commander under fire here any second. Apparently choosing to ignore it as the base goes up in smoke. And indeed, the rest of it will follow. Advanced Metal Extractor now going to be obliterated here, as well as the T2 Lab, which I think is what we're actually targeting here, but these guys are just a little bit slow on the draw. There we go. T2 Lab does pop, and that's going to mean essentially a game over for our Dark Green Commander, Omix. Well played. Northern side has crumbled. Jamakis is on the clock. If Jamakis can't apply essentially an equal amount of pressure to what is happening on the northern front, it'll be game over. One thing that I wouldn't mind is the use of landmines. I've started to greatly appreciate them. Ever since seeing just how brutally effective the landmine can be in a game of my own, I realized, wait a second. Maybe landmines are the future. So case in point, 3, 4, 5, 6, 20 landmines over here in the choke points. Here, 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 here. Kind of everywhere. Maybe not a bad idea. It does, of course, require that you go into vehicles, which is a little bit incongruent if you're especially going into bots. There's just no reason for you to go into T1 vehicles, aside from maybe if you specifically want to go into landmines. Maybe it's worth it. Maybe that's what the change of heart is all about, is the fact that it's worth actually going vehicles just for the landmine layer. But it's going to take a little bit more to convince me than just my single, good, positive, singular experience with the landmine. Anti-air, paralyzed here. Not well enough, though. Fiends get obliterated by those starlights that blast them to smithereens here. Sheldon also doing a great job as the grunts and the agitators. Aggravators. Now the Fiends are in the back line, burning up the T2 air player here. We got to the T2 air lab, but we didn't make the one crucial unit that we could have won this with, and that was the EMP bomber. I feel like maybe 2 or 3 or 4 of those might have been able to actually shut down this push and allow for some of these units to trade out a little bit more efficiently, maybe enabling a sort of a comeback of some type. Jamak is trying his very best here, sends out the Fiends in a big wave of fire, death, destruction, and debris. They do burn across this base right here, sending Xur back to the Stone Age as all of the T2 is blown to smithereens. A single Twitcher remains. A artifact of a kinder time remains on the battlefield here, reclaiming metal, a much less virtuous purpose than it was originally built for here, and eventually even it will be obliterated under the Quaker fire. Fiends continuing to run by. Yeah, again, no defenses over here, no fielded units, no nothing. Fiends more than happy to just sit back, relax, crank their flamethrowers to maximum, put on some hot tunes, some sick jams, and burn away an entire base in about 2.5 seconds. Case in point, single Fiend right here doing, what is that, about 6% damage, 5% damage more or less? Looks like about 5% damage to that single T2 laboratory right there. An extremely, extremely powerful unit. The Fiend waves collide. When worlds collide, it's a beautiful thing. Self-destructs would be nice, though. Yeah, there we go. I saw one of them. Another couple self-destructs wouldn't be the end of the world. Not that they're necessary. Those starlights do chain react when they explode, so just a couple of them going to be more than enough. Oh, but already the demons are out here. So that Fiend attack did manage to take out this player up on the high ground, but the demons are going to be more than enough to blast away with their twin flame cannons. They do overwhelming firepower damage. They can blast away basically anything that you need to deal with. They have a little anti-air on them as well, so you can see the rockets firing off the backpack and flying up to hit some of these fighters right now. It keeps shurikens off them. It keeps some light gunships and that sort of a thing off them as well. And in bigger numbers, it can even keep any of the sturdier things off them too, like bombers or gunships or anything like that. T2 Lab goes down as the demon continues to walk forward here. The blinding white light of justice here for the red team, ready to eviscerate the blue. Counter demon has been produced right now. Doesn't matter. Fiends pop right here for a jeton, and that essentially means that the energy economy is thrown into shambles. With wind speed as low as 4 right here, these wind turbines are going to be as good as gone. Karganeth now pumped out of a T3 lab, but this is already looking devastating. We are down to, a whole bunch of bombers over here on this side of the map. Not what I was originally going to say, but my goodness, what a bombing run. Takes out all the wind turbines, all the build power, all the energy converters. We're headed into the main base right here of the Red Commander. We are going to hit the energy converters and the T2 advanced fusion reactor at the same time. The fighters are trying their very darndest to shoot all these bombers out of the sky. The flak turret doing a great job as well. Aphis will come down to 28% HP, but will remain standing. And I think that was just about all that there was in the tank here. Yeah. Looks like bomber went down over here on this side as well. Yeah, I think Scuff just trying to rebuild here. Desperately. Demons coming out in mass. They are 6,000 metal, 90,000 energy. For some reason I thought they were 9,000 metal. They're actually relatively cheap. 6,000 metal for a T3 is not terrible. Especially for the damage they can do. Pretty phenomenal, actually. This is one of those things where I wish these units would mark the unit that they're firing at. That way nobody else would target their unit that they've marked. That might be too smart for Bar's engine to handle. But it's one of those little things that I feel like would make every static defense in this entire game a whole hell of a lot more useful. You can set it to work with teammates or to disperse evenly, right? Like it'll fire on things that aren't marked or fire on things that are marked. Seems like a plan to me. Can have a little laser designator, right? We'll have a good little laser sight. Complicated demon battle down here. 2 versus 1. And then another 2 versus 1. And that's about all that I have to say about that. One of these demons running for its lives over here. 2 of them, however, will not make it out. This is where you gotta send your resbots, though. If you got resbots and you need to send them somewhere, this is where you want to put them. Right here where the T3 went down. Resurrect all this, use it in combination with the T3 you've produced, and essentially you're using your opponent's production, your opponent's T3 production, against them. Which is always lovely. Bulls here now feeling the burn from these super flamethrowers. I think suddenly realizing that 950 metal cost, probably not going to be worth it here. I hope we're realizing that anyways. There are still bulls on the production docket, so I'm not entirely sure if maybe that lesson has been learned quite yet. I'm going to go ahead and speed this up though. Looks like Karganet, they've been firing away at a whole bunch of grunts that have just been streaming out here. A little bit unfortunate. Those grunts have not effectively achieved all too much at this point with, you know, all the T3 that's now out on the field. They're just going to be too efficient at dealing with any of that T1 chaff. And I just don't think that they're really going to be able to do all too much. Aside from get obliterated, I suppose. Persecutor firing away down on the low ground here. Radar would be nice. Definitely a good call out. The Orange Commander trying desperately to set something up here. Set up a little bit of a static defense. Yeah, Demon's burning back this army up on the northern side here. D-gun. Oh, we need a D-gun. Kyril's thinking about it. Definitely going for it. Okay, well, we'll settle for the D-gun on one of them. The other one, pretty low health. I believe that bull will probably be able to finish it off. Maybe, you know what? I am sorely mistaken. Still not used to the power of the demon. Extremely dangerous T3. Quite capable, all on its own. Resbots do indeed pick up these demons over here, by the way. We'll love for them to just kind of resurrect everything, yeah. Get the labs back up and running, get the metal extractors back up and running. The labs up and running, don't know what I'm talking about. The metal extractors is what I was thinking of when I was looking at that. Extremely tired. That T1, or that T1, the 1v1 tournament really took it out of me. Quite an all day kind of an event. Let me tell you, I'm not usually a morning person. I'll get up early for some pro level bar though, that's for sure. The bombing run was nice, and Jamakis' economy is flourishing here. We're going for a 4th Aphis, plenty of energy converters, essentially trying to maximize the economy in this itty bitty livid space. Not the end of the world, but very difficult to do. One of those things Jamakis has plenty of practice with, though. Going for a whole bunch of economy all over in a extremely cramped space, making a very powerful economy out of what is essentially no economy at all. Ambassador is firing away over here. Trying to, anyways, obliterate this Persecutor. Takes quite a heavy hit to bring down a Persecutor, but the rocket truck, definitely one such hit. Demon's headed across the map now. There is no excellent counter to these demons as far as I can tell. Yeah, we are effectively sending these demons on the path of destruction here. Scuffed has the commander available at the very least right now. Wind energy is quite high as well, so maybe we could collect the commander and go for a D-gun right here if we turn off the plane production. Commander does not cloak, does not D-gun, does not manage to bring down any of these demons, and that will mean that the yellow commander is left with only one choice, and that is to die. Just trying to see how many D words I could use right there. Don't clip that. Demons, wiping out one base. Let's see him to go for two. Certainly can take out the orange base from here. There we go. Killer instinct, definitely not lacking in Jamakis here. There we go. Base does fall. Demon more than happy to burn down anything and everything standing in its way here. Build power, LLTs, wind turbines, T2, vehicle bays, ferrets, anything else, and much, much more. Commander goes down over here. Looks like the commander did D-gun down one of them. Still two demons remain. So much damage on the other side of the map. Oh, there's not enough to defend at home though, is there? This demon staying alive by the skin of its teeth. These Resbots trying to keep it up and running. Looks like the heavy tigers will eventually blast down the Resbot escort that was helping this demon, but already the build power goes down right there for the blue commander. Jamakis loses control of the T3 laboratory. It spirals in a devastating explosion. The demon gets into the backline, and it'll only take mere moments for it to obliterate the advanced fusion reactor. Pop goes the economy of Jamakis and the blue commander, and essentially any hope the blue team had of managing to come back in this game. What a brutal back and forth. Jamakis pushing forward, heart and soul, as deep as he could into the red team here, wiping out 1, 2, 3 different players, if not more. But unfortunately, it just wasn't enough to deal with the ever-encroaching onslaught from Celine, pushing the demons further into the base of Jamakis here. One last bastion stands in the pinnacle of blue technology, I guess you could call it here. It's the Cyan base, although Jamakis' commander the only one that's still left standing. What a good sport. Yeah, it's GG. It's fine. Well played, everyone. That's the kind of stuff we like here at the Brightworks. Use your GGs, use your manners. Man, Starlight's surprisingly having a pretty hard time with that demon. Demons are relatively considered made out of paper. I'm surprised it took that many of them blasting in harmony, but you know what? I guess that was just one volley that took down those, so that's still pretty efficient. Once you get to the point where your defenses can blast down a single unit in a single volley, you've pretty much scaled to the right level. Anywho, it will be the red team who achieves victory today via an overwhelming pressure on the northern side here, eventually collapsing on top of the blue and sweeping away the opposition. Beautifully done by our red team, and beautifully done by everybody today. What a lovely game. Sure hope you enjoyed it, and if you do, you can always hit that subscribe button down below and join up on the Brightworks. We have more and more people joining every day and enjoying the game, and you just might be the next one. Other than that, though, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the very next game of Beyond All Reason. Peace out, everybody.